Welcome back to the new adventures of the monad. We have come a long way in our journey through the chains, rounds and globes that make up the cycle of life in our solar system. The main sources of information came from Dr. Annie Besant and Bishop C.W. Ledbetter, who were both luminaries of the Theosophical Society. According to Lawrency, Besant was a monad focused in her 47-2 causal molecule, and Ledbetter was also an initiate focused in his 47-3 causal molecule. They would both have had causal consciousness, but it is clearly evident from their writings that the way they interpreted their investigations was firmly rooted in their existing paradigm. As time progresses, humanity's store of mental as well as causal memories increases. Consequently, an adept from the distant past would not be as well informed as one today. It is a difference between having access to the best library in your day and now having access to the World Wide Web. The ability of both sets of researchers, past and present, would be the same, but the data they could access would be vastly different. The writings of H.P. Blavatsky have been referred to on occasions. This is not because it is not worth referencing them more often. It is just that the information contained in her writings is much more difficult to decode. When one regards religious texts, the prevailing narrative is usually that there is a deity who was always there and suddenly he gets bored and decides to create the universe. In it, he places a series of worlds that all seem to exist for the benefit of humanity. In the hypothesis put forward in these presentations, the story starts with our solar logos. This is not the genesis of the universe, but it is a snapshot of a monad that is going through a series of initiations, the current one being the second of the series. This monad focuses its will and gathers a torus of matter, which is spun off into a solar system. However, it is simply not a matter of a creator and the created. There are other highly evolved monads who make up the physical body of this great solar being, and they are themselves undergoing an evolution, and it is at this level that our story really starts. Although attention is paid to the relationship between the solar deity, represented through a central sun, and other great beings represented by the planets, it is the story of one of those planetary logos that is the focus of our investigations. The evolution of such a planetary logos is called a scheme, and the scheme of particular interest to us is the Earth scheme. The Venus scheme also has great relevance to us, and this relationship was discussed, including the monads involved that made this relationship important. In a scheme, a planetary scheme logos, which is the correct way to address such a monad, undergoes 49 incarnations. These incarnations are this monad's own journey to gain causal cosmic consciousness. To do this, a series of 7 chains are constructed, each chain nesting 7 globes. What is the purpose of these 7 globes? They serve as a matrix within which 7 streams of evolution can themselves evolve. These streams start with essential essences and end as humanity. This is, however, not the whole story, as there are also 7 parallel streams of life. I speculate that one of those streams comprises the body of the planet itself and all the monads that go to make up this body function. Central to this whole enterprise is a group of monads that focus on the manipulation of matter. They are primarily focused on the evolution of the matter component of all life. They perfected their control of matter relative to their own state of evolution in a prior solar system. Although they are co-evolving with us, they are much further along the path in the management of the aspect of the Holy Trinity of matter, motion and consciousness, relating specifically to matter. On exiting the fourth kingdom of matter, humanity will be able to work consciously alongside the Devas in the evolution of the 7 life streams associated with our planetary scheme. Each chain of 7 globes goes through a cyclic evolution of 7 rounds. In this manner, each globe is visited by all the 7 life streams 7 times. Depending on where the planetary scheme Logos has their attention focused will depend on which of the globes is expressing fully the life potential it can offer. This means there are 343 times the light is switched on within the scheme of 49 globes. There is something that has to be borne in mind when thinking about these 49 globes. They do not all exist on the same plane of matter, but descend and ascend several planes during the course of a scheme. These different levels of materiality allow the guiding forces of evolution to work in the development of all the monads associated with that particular globe at that time. The number of human monads associated with this chain is reported to be 60 billion. Our evolution in the Earth scheme started with us having the consciousness level of the mineral kingdom. We are currently halfway through the whole scheme and have reached the 4th kingdom of nature. Our further passage through the scheme will see us no longer tied to the globes themselves, although our responsibilities for the evolution of all life will still see us working intimately with concurrent life streams still evolving on them. The presentation then moves on to look specifically at 2 chains, the 3rd or moon chain and our own, the 4th or earth chain. In reviewing these 2 chains, we are able to see how specifically the animal and human monads went about evolving their consciousness. All matter is just that, matter. It comprises a monad, which is exceedingly small, and there are no greater or lesser sized monads. So what differentiates monads? It is their degree of consciousness. That is the whole function of evolution, whether it be the solar Logos, our Earth scheme Logos, or ourselves. The material components of our monads are all the same. It is the consciousness field around this atom and the degree to which we can focus our will or energy component that determines our position on Jacob's ladder. Drilling down into our evolution on this current globe, in the 4th round of the 4th chain, we are told by Ledbetter and Besant that humanity was guided in its evolution by a series of advanced monads known as a Manu. It is they that hold the blueprint for humanity in their very genes. They have guided us through a series of root and sub-races to where we find ourselves today. We have a long way to go before we finish our evolution on this globe, and then we have 3 more globes to go before we finish this round. After that, we have 3 more rounds to finish this chain, and 3 more chains to finish this scheme. If we follow the blueprint that a cohort of monads evolves to a higher kingdom per chain, then the bulk of humanity is destined to reach plane 43, where Christ Maitreya resides today, by the end of the whole scheme. That may come as a bit of a shock to some of you if you were expecting to get there by the end of the month. Of course, the evolution of any monad is ultimately up to them. They are constrained, however, by the sea they swim in and the prevailing currents. Which direction they choose to swim in and to what degree they wish to perfect their technique is up to them. This is certainly the case by the time they reach the 4th kingdom of nature. Some may question the value of studying the past evolution of life, especially in the remote past, as we have done. But there is value to this study, for by the studying of the past, we become familiar with it, almost to live in its time. We do this not just to satisfy our curiosity or to establish aimless truths, but to learn from our successes and mistakes. This is what makes the study of history a necessity. One thing among many we may be aware of is the fragmentary and limited scope of our investigation. In our narrative, we have focused on a small group of monads known collectively as the servers. They are not the most important or significant monads in our evolution. It is just that the researchers who have presented this information to us were intimately bound up with this group, and so expanded their narrative within the context of their own experiences. There must be, many other groups equally or even more significant than the servers, and the few others mentioned. The path of service is one of many paths. Who is there who dares to say that one path is greater or to be preferred to any other path? All roads lead to one goal, and the monads no doubt have their own sufficient reason for selecting any particular path in this cycle of their evolution. For some live to help and to serve others, for that is their nature. That is the line they as monads have chosen for themselves. Others live to know, to learn all the wonders, the magic, and the mystery of this incredibly marvelous universe. Is then the God of knowledge to be accounted less worthy than the God of service? There are some who do not take service as their primary goal, nor do they limit themselves to acquiring and using knowledge. They seek perhaps to live perfectly, to express this perfection, God is life. Yet others model their lives on the ancient saying that the nature of the self is bliss. They seek to help the God of happiness to achieve His divine purpose of creating, maintaining, and adding to the happiness of all beings. And then there is the path of love. What shall we say about that? Is it the greatest of all paths, at all times, and for all people? Could the universe be brought to being, developed in all its superb structural complexity, and brought to fruition by love and love alone? These are hard questions, and even here the wise should refrain from dogmatism to avoid falling into error through a vision of life which is not as yet inclusive. If the possibilities of life are infinite in majesty, in power, in love, in action, in happiness, surely there is ample scope. There may even be a need for some to seek perfection of life, to become life, to fulfill the plan of life, by these or by any of other life's limitless and infinite possibilities. Thank you.